Hey, it's Mazzy and welcome back. Five new albums, five new releases, somewhat new. Some of these are from this past summer that I finally have dived into. Two of them are, well, one's a reissue, one's a comp, because people keep saying, I want to hear new music, not just the Beatles and the Stones and Bob Dylan, who are all just coincidentally putting records out around the same time right now. But not all these are new, but I think these are some records you might want to check out. Now, the first one is actually a record from 1998 that I totally missed completely. And this is Monk by Jesus and Mary Chain. This originally came out on Sub Pop Records here in Seattle, but of course, the British group, really down to just the Reed brothers, the two Reed brothers, that are really part of the beginning of noise pop out of the UK. And of course, their first record, Psycho Candy, I got into. And it's, when you really break it down, Psycho Candy and most of their records, Jesus and Mary Chain, are essentially slowed down Ramones with a lot of fuzz and noise, and their vocals are really kind of screen way back and very much Phil Spector-like, but again, in a different new way at the time. And, they kind of commercialized what groups like Sonic Youth were starting to do, that made noise, but not as accessible. And of course, people are going to say, Sonic Youth are nothing like Jesus and Mary Chain. My personal story about them, I did end up seeing them at a club on Haight Street called the I-Beam, and they had a lot of sort of the early 80s, mid 80s groups that were coming around, like The Cure the first time, and even Violent Femmes, that kind of post-punky Britpop, as well as American and alternate rock, it was really ended up being called around that time. And I did see them upstairs at the Haight Street Club. My photographer, Michelle Clement, got assigned to photograph them. This was their first American tour. Photographed them for Rolling Stone magazine and showed up at the Beck Motor Lodge on Market Street right near the Castro where they were staying. And it was supposed to be a 11 a.m. photo shoot. And they were all asleep and they didn't answer or anything. So we had to call Rolling Stone. Anyway, the shoot got rescheduled, I believe, for very late that afternoon before they performed. Let's get to the point, Mazzy. Let's talk about the record. Jesus Mary Chain, Monkey. This is, again, their only record, I believe, for Sub Pop. It's just been reissued recently by Fuzz Club Records. It is a double album. I think the original was only a CD, so it's a long record. And I had never heard this before, so that's why I wanted to showcase this. Not only is it just being reissued on vinyl, but it's a record by a band that I enjoyed that I never heard the first time around. Now, this was a little different for them, and having gone through it now several times, it's still the Reed brothers with other musicians. So the band is essentially typical wanker brothers who don't get along and argue. This has still some of that noise pop thing that they were doing. Again, 3-4 chords, very simplistic music, but very accessible. And this is a really appealing and really good record. I was told up front by a few people that, I don't think it's one of their best albums. I don't know if it's in their top echelon, but it's a really friggin' good record. It's accessible. There's one song on here that their sister sings. What does she go? She goes by the name Sister Vanilla. It's actually their sister that sings along. And Hope Sandoval from Mazzy Star sings on one track too. It's very accessible. There's a track on here, I believe it's on side 2 on here, that reminds me, it has a little kind of a dub bass and drums dub sound, which I adore that. But also reminds me a little bit of Mark Bolan of T-Rex. I think this is a really cool record. Opens up and closes with these two sort of rock and roll songs. I love rock and roll and I hate rock and roll. In fact, they sandwich the record, and it's not, the anthem, I love rock and roll, not that at all. But there's some really melodic tunes. Sometimes their vocals are definitely up more than they were on those early, like Psycho Candy, those first few albums of the pretty much the quote, the patented trademark sound. I say that with tongue in cheek of Jesus and Mary Chain, but a really good band. And I just love what they've done here. And I don't know why I missed this record or the CD originally when it came out, but this is highly recommended. Jesus and Mary Chain, Monkey. Little overview, a lovely package, and it's got inset sleeves that visually showcase every song on the album. All the songs here. Produced by Jesus and Mary Chain. There we go. They kind of write separately, I believe, William and Jim Reed. So there you go. Jesus and Mary Chain. This is an album I was really curious about, and I'm really enjoying this, and I had no idea what to expect. And this is one I did buy without listening to it before, because this is a band that came out of the ashes, and we think they're ashes because they no longer exist as a band, or at least they're on hiatus, maybe permanent hiatus, of the Super Furry Animals. And this is Das Coolies. Now, Super Furry Animals, one of my favorite bands, Welsh band, and I'm going to show a record just as a side thing, not part of the 5 here, that has been reissued at 20th anniversary. But Das Coolies is basically Super Furry Animals without their primary songwriter, without their lead singer, without Griff Rhys. Now, Griff Rhys has a very unique voice, a sardonic, lyrical style, really kind of quirky lyrics and funny lyrics, poignant lyrics, topical lyrics at times, and in your face a lot. And he, he's in that, doesn't sound like the Dylans or the Warren Zevons, but he's got a quirkiness like that, and he's very organic. And I love his solo records. I think he has a new one coming out too. But the rest of the band, this reminds me of, my 2 favorite albums are Rings Around the World and Phantom Power. Was it 2003 or 4 and 2007, I believe, those came out. And if you go beyond the songs that are very organic, there's a lot of electronic sounds, a lot of loops and electronic effects, and that's what this is more. Das Coolies. This just came out. Beautiful graphics on the cover. I love the graphics here. 2 record sets, black vinyl. I think the vinyl is limited, might even be sold out. And my copy that I ordered directly through Bandcamp and the band came with a signed slick here. But I really like this. I was kind of surprised. It's very much more electronic. It's got an experimental of beats and samples and loops. And the vocals are almost harmonic, surreal voices. Again, unlike Griff, who was more sort of the lead singer and, as I said, primary songwriter. This is more of an ambient record, a lot of heavier beats. So in some ways, some of it is like a dance record, but not all of it. Swirling effects. This would probably be a great headphone record, so a CD might be appropriate. Obviously, it's a digital recording, I would assume. But it's really a dramatic record and experimental record. Don't expect the melodies like you have with Super Furry Animals, but it's a cool-ass record. I've been using the term cool-ass a lot. I don't know why. It's an electronic, like electronica with some melodies occasionally that come in. Some of the work is instrumental, then there's some, again, voices, but not, again, the lyrics. In fact, there's no lyrics on here, and so I don't think the lyrics are really important to them like they are with Super Furry Animals. But let me just show as a side note, I did show this before, but this is one of my 2 favorite Super Furry Animals record in the last several months. BMG in this country released the 20th anniversary of this on vinyl. It's been really rare on vinyl, but this also is a double record. So this has Griff Rhys, obviously, his vocals, with Das Coolies backing him, which is actually literally Super Furry Animals. And I just like this. There's more of a psychedelic overtones of this, psychedelic electronica with really great hooks and hysterical lyrics at times, but not like cliche comedy stuff. Poignant, topical, and beautiful. I just love the production and the mix on this. And so this is really kind of would be the backup to Griff. And I don't mean to say that thinking that they're secondary. It's just really different. Griff is more like a unplugged, folky version of them, even though he has production in it. So that's Das Coolies, and their album is called, well, it's just basically DK01, which is Das Coolies 01. I believe there's an EP as well that came out of, last year at some point. And this is on Strangetown Records. You can get it through Bandcamp, I think. So check that out. Next is a band. They've started out of Seattle. I think they're in LA now. And it's really a one-man project. And this is Night Beats. And this is Rajan. I love the graphics, obviously, on this album. The cover art is amazing. And he's a very psychedelic artist. And it's really a one-person project. And his name is Danny. He goes by Lee Blackwell. So Danny Lee Blackwell, Rajan Billingsley. That ain't a mouthful, whatever. But Lee Blackwell, it's really his project. And this is a very psychedelic pop record, a mix of garage, psychedelic, pop, alt country. But this one pushes a little more into this funky soul beat at times. Not all of it. There's that reverb-drenched surf guitars. There's a little bit of there's one track that seemingly like has a mellotron like Strawberry Fields on side 2, but it's not the pattern of that. It's more upbeat, more dramatic. But there's an aura to this album. There's an ambient sound to this album, which I really like. Again, garage psychedelic with a funky beat, retro soul a little bit. There is a little bit of a trance. There's a track on here that has this kind of trance rhythm that's continued throughout with a harmonica. So it's almost like a blues harmonica, blues harp throughout the thing over a trance. I had never heard a trance sort of ambient piece of music with a blues harp going through it, but I really enjoy this record. This record, again, the graphics are lovely. In this case, it's a lovely red label. And this is on Suicide Squeeze Records. What a beautiful cover. This came out over the summer, so I'm late to the game, but I have the last 3 albums, and I just love them. I saw them live when they came through Seattle once, and they're in that ambient surf guitar, psychedelic genre. Next, I have the new album by Devo Banhart, and he's an artist that I've been following for the last decade plus. The last several albums were on Non-Such. He came out of the San Francisco Art Institute. I think he's a native San Franciscan, actually. And I remember those first albums of him that I got initially on CD and then on vinyl, had a very influential, like Donovan, with a little South American flair to it. So it's a very kind of freak folky style, and I love those records. And he almost sounded a little bit of a sort of a Central American sound to a Latin folk artist. This album, his first album in several years now, and this is called Flying Wig. The band Banhart. We have obligatory poster, artsy poster. Again, coming out of art school, music 101, so to speak. I love bands. Should do a video on bands who came out of art school. There's a lot of them, including the Beatles and Stones, or a segment of them. This record is different. It's not as folky. I love his voice. His voice is very upfront, like he does, and I like his vocal patterns. There's more synthesizer on here. It's more produced in a certain way, but not up in your face. It's not a loud record. It's not a upbeat record. It's a very chill record a lot. Devo Banhart, really enjoy this. There's a trance thing to it sometime, but more produced, more instrumentation on it. And this is interesting because it's produced by Kate LeBon. I've been getting into some of her records, British artist lately, that someone suggested I check her out because she also produced the new Wilco record. So she seems to be sort of the producer du jour on the indie scene with Wilco and now Banhart. So I recommend this record. It's really a beautiful, beautiful record. So Banhart's new album. There you go. And lastly, this is just a comp, and this is a fun, cool-ass comp, fun-ass comp. And this is from Rhino Records, and this is Rhino Warner, of course, and this is a double record, retrospective of Devo. Always loved Devo. I saw them the very first time they came to San Francisco at the Mabuhay Gardens, the Fab Mab, the infamous punk club, where they did Jocko Homo and all those. And I believe they possibly just signed to Warner Brothers. The album hadn't come out yet, but I had gotten the independent singles. Was it Jocko Homo and the indie version of Satisfaction, that Stones cover. Double record, polyline sleeves that many of you love. Beautiful red vinyl. This contains most of their singles, a few alternate songs from soundtracks. My copy came with an extra slip mat. That was a local retail indie thing. I don't use slip mat. They land quietly. And a little overview of the album with some sort of storyboarding here. And of course it goes through all the records. It tells you these are mostly the Warner Brother versions, not the independent versions they started out. There's a couple of tracks, at least one track, from a soundtrack, from the heavy metal soundtrack with their version of the cover of the soul hit Working in a Coal Mine. Great version of that. That was, it got heavy radio play at the time. Devo is, to me, just a very original band, and we all know this is a sort of a 40-year retrospective of Devo. Now, I do want to talk about this because I am a big fan. When I saw this, partly I got it because of the cover. I have a lot of these songs, not all of it, but it's a fantastic listen. It's a great, I'm a fan of certain comps and certain single comps. Cut to Beatles Red and Blue that are coming out. I like sometimes hearing things in different orders. Of course, you can do your own playlist digitally and make the records in a different order. And people say, why do you need these records? You already have all the records. Not in this order. I know that's a little tongue-in-cheek, and I don't have all these records. I think I have 5 Devo records in total. But I want to talk about this cover. This cover was created by an artist from Costa Rica who I've been following for several years on Instagram. And I'm going to cut away in a minute to some of his work. It's Tomo77, Costa Rican artist. And I've purchased a series of posters from his website that were produced actually in Portland, Oregon in the last couple of years. He does political things. He does art. He's done some just really graphic. He's sort of one of my favorite painters, illustrators in the moment of recent years. I got turned on to him during the pandemic. He did a series of sort of pandemic-related posters. He's done posters for Pearl Jam and did some couple of collaborations with the artist Shepard Fairey, limited editions. And I highly suggest people into art, you can invest in these poster series, and they're not crazy expensive. I'll put a link below to his site, and you can see the kind of things he has there. He does limited editions. Again, as I love artwork, graphic arts, poster arts, illustration, paintings, photography, all the arts, I love that. But I just love what he does here. Right when I saw this and I saw the way he does his backgrounds, I knew this has got to be Tomo77 because I know his work, and I just love, this is such a heroic, almost like the WPA mural. This is Devo, a 40-year anniversary collective. Really wonderful. I played this. This is a fun record to put on and blast. It's just totally enjoyable. So that's it. Those are some new records that came out. Several brand new records completely, and 2 as I bookend some reissues. 1 I haven't heard at all, which is Mary Chain, and of course the Devo. So check these records out. It's about the music, and no comment. Mazzy loves you.